Greetings out there to you lovely visitors once more. We're back with another episode of Title Screen Review. This time we'll be doing Sunless Sea. Another personal favorite of mine, right up there with Darkest Dungeon and a few other more macabre games. I hope I pronounced that right, I never do. So let's jump right in. First off, let's start with the, of course, with the background, as always. Sunless Sea is a game about exploring a dark underground ocean in a Victorian setting. It's a very gothic and very wonderfully just atmospheric game. Gameplay-wise, it leaves a bit to be desired, but if you're looking for a nice atmospheric, story-driven game, this is definitely a good pickup for you. Especially if you're a major fan of Victorianism in any way, or in Gothicism. Now, the background after that description is, as you can see, very fitting. It's very lonely, again, atmospheric and dark, with this sort of lone buoy over here rocking back and forth. And again, I want to point out that it's animated, much like in Darkest Dungeon, very stylistically. It's very muted colors and very sort of slow, methodic animation. There is a lot more to it than in Darkest Dungeon, where it was simply like a bit of shadows flickering and that animated torch. But here, you've got the water rippling very slowly, as though, to just build, like, a sort of tension. And the music in the background, also very helpful towards this, as it, I just love the soundtrack to this game so much. And that's a huge point to me. I'm a very soundtrack... Like, whenever I play a game, I will always very much listen to the soundtrack a lot. And so that's one of the hallmarks of a very good game to me, is a good soundtrack. And that's one of the hallmarks to a good title screen, is a good, recognizable, delicious, just very fitting soundtrack. So, and with that done, let's look at the interface. Now, we've got the continue button, which is always a great thing to have, because sometimes a lot of games will have the load game button as well, because which is you click and you load into your last save. But the continue game always is great because it puts you right in there. It goes from your last save and puts you right into the game. Now you see here we have a button that's sort of grayed out saying all stories up to date, and that's one of the great things about Sunless Sea is, games get old sometimes. They just run out of content to play, but Sunless Sea frequently updates with story content, as it is a story-driven game that you can come in and play. Sort of like how MMOs or other long-running games like Team Fortress 2 or things have seasonal events, so does Sunless Sea, with their own sort of delicious Victorian twists on them. And you can get those right off the title screen, so that's not an in-game thing, but, or it does affect in-game, but it's not something you have to get into game and do, so. And then, of course, we have the new game button, always a classic for these sorts of games. And there's, of course, the options, and once more, credits. Credits, always an interesting find on the title screen. Typically, you have games where you get through to the end, and then it rolls the credits, but sometimes you see these games with credits right on the title screen as one of the options. And that's always something I like to point out in some games, because when a game does that, it's showing confidence. You gotta think about how it's showing a lot of confidence in how much content this game can provide for you, that you'll be playing it so much and just doing all these sort of side quests and sort of things that, that you might not get to the end. And you see this in a lot of roguelikes as well. So games like Sunless Sea, where you die a lot, the credits help. That allows people to get the sort of recognition that they need that have worked on this game without players having to go all the way through. Because you see, it's games like these, people might just enjoy it for the soundtrack or for the side quests, and they might never get around to doing main story stuff. And I like to point that out. That's also interesting. Over here, of course, you'll see that it has a sort of news feed, which is always, much like in Overwatch, where it had sort of extras on the side for keeping in touch with others. This as a single-player game, just sort of has a news instead of a chat feature. And as well as a little sort of ad that you can click on for Fallen London, which is the studio's other game, which is a free-to-play game that you can go on and play in browser-based, and it's sort of like a text adventure. That one does have a bit more player-on-player interactions, but I'll leave that to you, audience, to explore. I think that that's it for now. Just one sort of overall last look at the title screen. I really love it. Sunless Sea, perfect title screen for the game that it is, I have to say. It's grim and foreboding and just very delicious. And I have to say, I'm a real fan. That's it for this episode. I hope you'll join me next time. I'm sort of getting a schedule worked out, so we'll sort of see how often these episodes can come out. And I hope that you'll be back next time. Good night.